All right, good morning, Abyssers. All right, so we will start with read. We have this problem. In fact, I'll even sketch it out. Here's 1. If I put 1 into that function, I get 1. And I got 2, 3, and if I put 3 in there, I'm up here to 9. It's part of a parabola. I'm thinking you would agree with that, right? So if I could shade, that's the area I'm looking at, correct? All right? How do we figure that out? What's the first step you want me to do? Find delta x. Okay, 1. Delta x equals, I'm ready, 3 minus 1 over n, which is 2 over n. Perfect. Oop, we'll let Maya do number 2. Okay? What's the next thing I look at? C sub I. And what is that going to be? Want me to give you a hint? Okay, I'm good at giving hints. A plus delta x times I. And we go in alphabetical order. A, B. I'll even give you that hint. 2I over n? Yeah. Is that what you said? Perfect. 3. McKenna. Summation symbol. I equals 1 to n. What goes where? Like that? So that would be the heights of all the rectangles. Would you agree? They're wide, aren't they? Where's the width? Because it's height times width, right? 2n in the front, right? Because all of them have the same width, so we can, in this case anyway, we can multiply everything, right? We have uniform rectangles, right? They're all the same width. All righty, Nick. Can you expand that for me? It's going to become a trinomial. Okay, it's slow for me because that's perfect. Plus what? Perfect. All right, that's wonderful. Good job. All right, Hunter, what do I do next? Okay, I'm going to distribute that. On this one, what do you want me to write what? Where?
8 over n squared,
Then I. And then what about this one?
8 over n cubed, I squared.
8 over n cubed. You know what? I need to listen better. I'm sorry. I'm having issues. I squared, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to take the limit yet, but I'm going to get everything in terms of n, right, John? So I'm going to have, I have one, I'm adding 1 n number of times, correct? And then I'm multiplying it by 2 over n. What's that going to give me? 2. Nice number. Well, it's not as nice as 3, but it's like 55th on my list. Okay? Plus 8 over n squared times plus 8 over n cubed times, you know that, baby? Over 6. Very good. All right, Ryan, do we want to simplify or you want to take the limit just as it is? What do you want to do? Okay. Are you able to do that in your head? Yeah, that's what I got. Anybody else get 26 over 3? Or are you guys waiting for the calculator? I think you get 26 over 3. Very good. Okay? On the assignment on 4-4, you have a bunch of those to do. All right? Now, so this is the definition of an indefinite integral. Here's A, here's B. A is always on the bottom. B is always on top. The smaller number always goes on the bottom. The larger number always goes on top. And what that is you're finding the area underneath that curve. Today we're going to talk about what that area represents. It's defined as this limit. Notice I put the delta x here. Well, that delta x is multiplying, right? And I could move it out here, which I did right here, because that's the way we've done it. But here's the height. Here's the width of every rectangle, because that's how you compute the area of those rectangles. That's how you compute the area of those rectangles. Here I have a definite integral. Andy, what would the indefinite integral look like if I had that stuff? What's the only difference?
Plus C.
My answer would be a plus c, and I'm going to write capital F of x plus c here, but what would the integral look like? It would equal this as an answer, okay? It looks a lot like this, doesn't it? Except what? Does anybody know the difference between the indefinite and the definite integral? Okay, Morgan? You don't have an A or a B, so it looks exactly the same. But you are right, it finds the antiderivative and you got to have the plus c, correct? Okay, now what's going to happen is we're going to be merging these two together in some sense to make life easier, which will be tomorrow. Okay? Next page. Sawyer, right now, how would we evaluate that? How would you do that if I gave you an answer and let's say this is on the AP test? And at this moment, all you know is you have to figure out the area underneath the curve. And you could do, let me draw a picture, okay? If I put 1 in there, I'm at 3. So here's 1, 1, 2, 3. Here's 3. 2, 3. And if I put 3 in there, I get 7. Correct? Is that right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's a line. Would you agree with that? Okay. So I could do this, couldn't I? So if this is the AP test, and they give you this, and this means you need to find what here? It's an indefinite integral. It asks you to find what? Area under it. How would you do it? I see two choices. Both of them are correct. Which one do you want? What? What do you, okay, elaborate on that. We want the exact area. We don't want a closeness. Okay, we can do it limit-wise, okay? So tell me how to start. Delta x? Is that what you're saying? What is delta x? Oh, you did 3 minus 1 in your head? You got 2 over n? That's pretty cool. Okay, so what's the next step? C of I. And so that's going to be what? 2I over n. Okay, you okay with that? All right, so what's my third step? You're doing wonderful, Sawyer. Summation, okay. I equals 1 to n, right? What goes where? Into the function. So I'm going to have 2 times 1 plus 2I over n plus 1. Would you agree with that? Anything out here? This is the height, correct? I need a width, correct? I'm going to give you a hint. If I look at this front page, is this helpful? Okay, so what goes in front here? 2 over n. Okay, so I have 2 over n summation I equals 1 to n. And sorry, you're going to do a few things in my head. Are you okay? 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Plus 2 times 2i is 4i over n. Are you okay with that? Yes? Okay. So I would break it into how many summations now? 2. And I'm going to get 2 over n summation I equals 1 to n of 3 plus, here's my summation I equals 1 to n. Here's I. What goes out in front of here, Sawyer? I times 2 over n, right? Would you agree? So it gives me 8 over n squared. Is that what you said? Okay, so now I'm going to have 2 over n. Well, let's see. Maybe we can do this in our heads. I'm adding 3 n number of times and multiplying by 2 over n. What does that give me? 6. Plus, I'm going to have 8 over n squared times what? N times n plus 1 over, remember, 2. Okay? Do you want me to simplify it, or can you take the limit from there? Okay, so I'm going to write limit here as n goes to infinity. What do you get? How did you get 4? I got 6 here. That's a 4, right? Did you forget about the 6? Okay, so what do I get for an answer? 4 was right here. Plus 6. 10. Okay? Okay? That's the calculus way. Maddie, if you could do it any way you wanted to, which you can on the AP exam, you could do it this way. But how else could you have done it if you'd drawn this picture? You could even easier than that. Even easier than that.
Oh yes, but it until like shapes.
Okay. So it's 2 this way, 1, 2, 3 this way. This rectangle has an area of what? 6. And this is 2 this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4 this way. So 3 by 4, and it's a triangle.
6.
Oh, excuse me, 2 by 4. It's a triangle. 4. And I also get 10. Okay? Alrighty. What? Oh, well, it won't work on curve graphs. But they give you a whole bunch that aren't. A whole bunch. You'll see them. Okay? It's always good to split it up and in there write it like that. Okay? All right, you ready? So the area under that curve is 10. Would everybody agree? The area under that curve is 10. Hannah, the directions are, find the particular solution for this that passes through 1, 5. What is this? This thing right here. Oops, sorry. Forgot about the dx. That whole thing right there. Say it again. It's an indefinite integral. What is the how do you solve an indefinite integral? It asks you to find the what? Okay. Okay. The antiderivative. What is the antiderivative? Plus c. That's what f of x is equal to. Okay? Is that a particular solution? Why not? Plus c, which means it's a family of solutions, correct? Okay, how do I find the particular solution? Okay, so where does 1 go? What is 1? It's a... Yeah, so what coordinate? So where does it go? Okay, so tell me what to write. What is 1 squared? Okay, plus, what's it equal to? Okay, what does c equal? 3. So what's my particular solution? F of x equals what? Or capital F of x equals what? Okay? All right? Now, Tegan, what's f of 3? How would I figure that out? Notice, 1, 2, 3 3s. Just point that out. What does that give me? 15. So f of 3 equals 15. Correct? F of 1 equals what? 5. F of 3 minus f of 1 equals what? 10. Okay. What's another? Okay, now this is going to be hard. Okay. Cora, this is going to be hard. When I started this, what was 3? The general name for 3. It's a hard, yes, wow, good. Minus f of 8. Okay. What does capital F represent? Mm-hmm. And what does 10 represent? Okay. So it says, what does F minus, right here, it is 10. What did 10 represent? It represents the area under the curve, right? Would everybody agree? It is also this. Here I have a point, 1, 5. Here I have a point, 3, 15, correct? the y's have a certain distance apart, aren't they? In other words, if I would graph, right here is 1 comma 3, and here is 3 comma 15. There is a vertical distance between them, correct? Would you agree? This vertical distance right here, that vertical distance is 10 in this case. Does that make sense? Yes. Oh, what did I write? 1, 3, 1, 5. Thank you. Okay. So this also represents the vertical distance of the y's generated by A and B. Okay, Jeremiah? What is this? Oh, and there's a screw up here. This should be a T, not an X. That's a typo on my part. Sorry. So what is this? What's V of T represent?
The derivative of the
No. What's V of T? V. And it tells you 3T squared feet per second.
volume.
Feet per second.
Speed.
Another name for speed that has direct velocity. Okay? And it asks you to do this. So you're finding the area underneath that curve that represents velocity. Correct? If I would draw that, here's 0, 0. And if I put 2 in there, I think I get 12. Would you agree? If I put 2 into this function, I get 12. Here's 2. So it's a parabola, correct? That's what it looks like. So right now, right at this minute, the only way we can figure out the area of that curve is using a limit, correct? Right? So we're going to do the limit. Delta x, what is it?
2 minus 0 over.
So we'll make it fast, we'll say 2 over m. C sub I, what is it?
2I over n.
Perfect. We're going to do a summation, right?
Yeah.
I equals 1 to n. What goes here?
3 times 2I over n squared.
And what goes out in front?
2 over.
So we can write this I equals 1 to n. Do you see where I get the I squared?
Yeah.
What am I going to have out in front here? I'm going to have 2 squared, correct?
Over
N cubed, correct. Okay? Because you got 2 times 3, which is 6, times 4, which is 24, n times n squared, which is n cubed. Beautiful. Okay? So we got 24 over n cubed times what?
n times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 over 6.
Over 6. Can I simplify the 6 and the 24? Are you okay with that? Do you want me to simplify the ends, or are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so are you ready to take the limit? Don't forget about that too, because some people did during the quiz. So what's my answer? 8. Ryan, what's the area underneath that curve? 8. 8 what? It's 8 feet. So this is time, correct? So in the time from 0 to 2 seconds, something traveled 8 feet. Why is it 8 feet? Why is it 8 feet? I mean, the area under the curve is 8. Why did it become feet? Why isn't it feet squared? Because if I would draw one of those rectangles and make it wide, this height is feet per second, correct? This distance here is seconds, right? And we take feet per second, that unit, times seconds, but I can write it like seconds over 1, right? And we have some simplification that goes on, correct? So it's 8 feet traveled from 0 to 2 seconds. That's how I write it when it's in the context of a problem. When it's in the context of a problem. So the distance under the curve, the area under the curve can represent a distance. The area underneath the curve can represent a distance if my function is giving me a velocity. Does that make sense? All right, next page. I don't even tell you what this function is. This point right here, it's hard to see, 0. This point right here is 2. This point right here, a little bit better, easy, is 4. And this right here is 7. This is a derivative. Specifically, what are x equals 2 and x equals 4? Read. It's an old school question. Yes. So x equals 2 makes a relative what? Maximum. Since what? From positive to negative? Isn't that what you mean by above and below? X equals 4 makes a minimum or relative what? I said the answer. Yeah. Since f prime changes from what? Negative to positive. All right. Now, f of f, this is f prime, correct? Would everybody agree? So f, the antiderivative to f prime, would you agree f is the antiderivative to f prime? If f prime is the derivative, then f must be the antiderivative. Would you agree? So this means f is increasing, turns around at 2, and decreases. then turns around at 4 and increases till 7. Would you agree? I'll say it again. F increases because F prime is positive, turns around at 2, decreases, turns around at 4, and increases. That's what we learned earlier, correct? Now, Maya, what does that mean? What is it asking you? First of all, is it definite or indefinite? Definite. It's a definite integral. Definite integrals ask you to find what? Yes. Under the, from 0 to 2. What is that area? I tell you what the area is. Right here. 13. Perfect. Again, I'm going to give you the hard one. No. It looks like an 8, but it's not an 8. You could say this. It's 8 going in the opposite direction. Hear what I'm saying? Does everybody see why it's 8 going in the opposite direction? Because what happens here? I turn around, correct? The graph turns around, so I go 8 in the opposite direction, correct? How do we write 8 in the opposite direction? Negative 8. Nick? From 4 to 7. F prime of x dx equals 43. All right, so F increases to 2. Do I know how much F? Remember, F is the antiderivative because this is F prime. Everybody got that? F increases to 2. Do I know how much it increased? Anybody have a guess on how much it increased? What? 13. This is the amount of increase that F went up, that the Y value went up, because F creates Y values, correct? This is how far up it went. And then it turned around, and what happened here? This represents how far it went. Went where? The other way. How far it decreased. How far it went back. And then it turned around again and increased, and that represents the amount of increase. So what do these numbers represent? Well, 13 represents equals the amount F increased. 8 represents the amount F decreased. 43 represents the amount F increased. Are you doing okay? Andy, I missed you, didn't I? Okay. So it says f of 0 equals 3, Andy. Now, this is not f. This is f prime, isn't it? F is the antiderivative of f prime, correct? If f of 0 equals 3, what does f of 2 have to be? I'm going to give you a hint. You ready? I know f increased from 0 to 2. Why? Because Reed said it's positive because it's above the x-axis. Right, Reed? I know it increased by 13 because there's a number under here that tells me the area is 13. So what's f of 2? 16. Hunter, f of 4. I know that f decreased because Reed said it's underneath the graph, and that means it's negative, so f is decreasing. I know it the amount that it decreased because there's a number under here, and it's 8, so it decreased 8. What's f of 4 have to be? 8. F of 7. Ryan, I know f is increasing because f prime is positive, because Reed said when it's above the x-axis positive, and I know how much it increased, 43. So what's f of 7? 51. Now, let's say I have a closed interval from 0 to 7. What's my absolute minimum? John? Now, absolute minimum, correct? I probably should say absolute. Now, it doesn't ask you to justify, but what would your justification be? Okay, that on a closed interval, absolute maxes and minimums can only occur at the endpoints and at the critical numbers. Aren't 0 and 7 the endpoints? Okay. Aren't 2 and 4 the critical numbers? Okay. And this is the biggest of that, that's the smallest of that group. Hannah, what's the absolute minimum? F of 7 is absolute max. On this closed interval 0 to 7, for exactly the same reason that I told John, right? All right, some facts, some properties of integrals. First of all, if I integrate from 1 to 1 of f of x dx, I am saying how much area is between 1 and itself. There's no area in between it. Does that make sense? So this is always 0. Are we okay with that? Secondly, I told you that b is always the biggest number and a is always the smallest number. If they're reversed, you have to put them, if they're in the wrong order, you have to put them in the correct order, but you got to multiply by a negative. So if I have this, 3, 2, 2x dx, what I have to do is write that as a negative 2 to 3, 2x dx. Because you got to multiply it by the opposite because they're in the opposite order. Are we okay with that? It means you're going the opposite direction. So if you were increasing, now you're decreasing. Understand what I mean? If I increased from one number to the other as I go from left to right, but now I'm going from right to left, now doesn't it become decreasing? This says that if I have this, if I chose to, I could write it like this. You'll see me do that a lot with pi later on. You'll see me bring pi out front. I don't do it with 2 because I know the antiderivative is x squared. Oops, I'm giving you a hint of something. And this is saying if I have to, if I have something like this, 1 to 2 of x squared plus 2x plus 1 dx. If I chose to, I could break it up I could, if I chose to, break them up into individual integrals, just like we do with summation symbols. Does everybody understand? By the way, this integral sign is an S. It means you're summing up an infinite number of rectangles. That's where it came from. It's kind of a little elongated S. I don't do it usually when I'm dealing with a polynomial. I usually deal it when I have a mix of things that I have to integrate them, figure out their areas differently. But in this, I would simply have done this differently than this, but that's what that means. All right. And on this page, this means we're done. I don't know, do you have a blank page?